Hey there, everyone. Tara-Nicholle Nelson here. We are going to cover. This is our second day of the on ramp, the 3-day on ramp into the 10-day writing challenge for conscious leaders and creators. We are going to go over a little bit of what I've learned from now having taken about 8,000 people through this challenge about what works for people who follow through, the people who have a really good experience of the challenge. And by good, I mean transformational. Um, but first, I'm gonna just go over really quickly what I am and am not actually challenging you to do, just so you can be super clear, because this comes up all the time. I am challenging you to write something every day for 10 days. That's it. I'm not challenging you to write something great, brilliant, publishable. I'm not challenging you to write a book or a thing that you have to show to anyone else. That what I am challenging you to do is to write something every day for 10 days and um, to give yourself credit on a spiritual level for anything that you write. So here are some guidelines for how you can, have a really incredibly transformational version experience in this program. It is a great target to try to write 3 pages if you're writing longhand, or 750 words a day if you're writing online. Which, and people ask me which is better. There are different advantages to typing. There are different advantages to longhand. You can type faster, most people. There is something very nourishing to and unwinding, down regulating to the nervous system of writing longhand. I actually go back and forth in my personal life, especially if I'm working on a book or a blog project. Often I will type because it's easier for me to search it and find the nuggets of things that I've written that I want to reference back to in my work. But I use a very specific kind of notebook that has a blank table of contents in the front. So if I have those downloads of inspiration while I'm writing longhand, I just usually make a reference note in the table of contents, and then I have that too. So whatever floats your boat is the answer. If you write a single sentence on a given day, you have won. If the only thing you can think of in a day is that you're frustrated that you weren't able to write that and give yourself credit for it, you won. I encourage you to either write freely. Free writing just means to, like, whatever words come to your mind, get them off, put them on the page. Or you can write to the writing prompts that I will send you by email. We will post on Facebook, and we will post in the spreadsheet that is linked to on the Facebook group, and then the initial confirmation email. Every day the challenge prompt will come out in those ways. Many people end up using the prompt just as a devotional or a meditation or whatever works for them on a daily basis, even if they're not using it to prompt their writing. And there you go. So you'll get daily prompts every day. You will also get a meditation. You can also use it as a meditation if you're choosing to free write a given day. You are also welcome to mix and match. Some days write to a prompt, some days do free writing. This is how it works in my own personal practice. Some days I'll have written something or watched something that will prompt me. Sometimes I'm working in my life on getting clarity on a specific issue. So the question that I'm trying to get an answer to will be my prompt. And sometimes I'm just like free writing. All right, here are some tools. You need a notebook if you're writing longhand. You need to use, I prefer to use Google Drive when I'm typing because I like that it is very searchable. Also, there is I think of it as like a writing challenge dashboard you can access at 750words.com. I love this tool for several reasons. I love that it creates a beautiful dashboard that keeps track of your writing as you go along. By the end of the 10 days, you'll have a beautiful representation of the work that you've done. It also tracks things like how fast you write and that kind of thing. So there are just some interesting learnings and insights you can have using the tool. Do not write directly in the tool. 750words.com. I would encourage you, if you're going to use that, to do your writing in Google Drive and copy and paste it out of that into 750words.com. I've just seen a lot of people have some technical difficulties and lose writing directly into it. I am also not affiliated with the site, so I can't really do tech support on it, but it works well for many thousands of people. Also, tools is every morning you will get an email prompt from me. Every evening, you will get a nudge at night to do your writing. There is, I wouldn't call it a course page here, but I would say there is a challenge Facebook group that you are welcome to join. And all of those things are tools that are available to you. Here is some advice I have about how to follow through. Many people come to a challenge going, oh gosh, I've had this real history of like, I try to start these things and I never really finish these things. First thing I would say is like, redefine what a successful challenge is for you. If you set an intention to feel a certain way or practice doing a certain thing, see video one, see yesterday's video, and you do that thing or feel that way, or if you set an intention to cultivate clarity or to practice writing and you do that, the challenge is successful. Whether you write 750 words a day for 10 days or not, you can have incredible success in the challenge by just experiencing the transformation that you want to have or getting put on the path to that. Right? 10 days is fast. So it's not necessarily the case that you're going to see everything about your life change in the 10 days. But if you can, in a year, reflect on the transformation that you've experienced, and this challenge was in any way part of the spark that got you started, I would say that you should define that as a success, whether you wrote one sentence or a book. The other thing I like to tell people a lot is that these challenges are often inspired by challenges that I issued myself in my real life. And I'll share about all of that with you one day, but I do all kinds of challenges. I did a dating challenge once where I went on 3 dates a week for 10 weeks. I did a church challenge where I like shopped around for different churches. Kind of my whole life in some ways has been a spirituality challenge, which is how I come to be like a Buddhist Black church lady all at the same time. You have to allow yourself to have the experience of the challenge that you need to have, and invite yourself to trust in divine order and timing of the transformation you need to have in your life. I say that because the first time I issued myself a writing challenge, I challenged myself to write for 30 days. I think I wrote 5 or 6 days. The second time I issued myself a writing challenge, I wrote a book. I wrote a whole actual book. So you are always in the process of getting ready to be ready for the thing, for the transformation that you need to have, and you will get there. Just let things unfold without getting super self-critical and judgmental. So here are some things that work really well for the people who are successful in the challenge, meaning they have a transformational experience of it, and for the people who just follow through. First is to plan that you're going to show no one else what you write. This writing is not for output. It is not for publication. It is for you to have the process that you need to have during the writing. Give yourself permission to write badly. And I know that's challenging for those of you who are like me, ambitious uplifters, you're achievers, you're successful, you like to do things well, you're used to doing things well. Keep in mind that you probably haven't had as much practice writing as you have doing some of the other things that you're really nearly perfect at. Give yourself permission to write badly. Let me tell you why this is very, very important. There are some things that happen to you spiritually from a creative and a productivity perspective when you build the habit of allowing yourself to invite inspiration and give yourself free space to write without editing and without censorship on a regular basis. The first thing that happens is you stop censoring the way that you talk about your emotions and have emotional reactions. That allows you to pour out your grudges and grievances onto the page, and then every day experience, like every time you write, it's like a new emotional windshield wiper. You just clear the slate. If you're holding back because you're writing as though it has to be good, you tend not to get all of that emotional cleanse impact of the challenge. Another thing that happens when you give yourself permission to write badly on a daily basis is that you just cultivate clarity, not of just emotions, but in the way you think. Because as you pour out the confused stuff and the things that don't make so much, the sentences that don't make so much sense and the stuff that's not that important, you get all of that out. And then what can come through is some of the clearest thinking you will ever have. Dots will connect about things that have happened in your past and things that are going to happen in your future. You will just experience this level of clarity in your thinking first, and then in the way you communicate, that I don't know another way to get this clear. And that's why I consistently write every single day of my life for about 6 years now. Um, you also, what you find then is that you practice getting into and being in what we call the flow state. And there are lots of ways to talk about the flow state, and many of them are valid. But one state is a state of creative flow, a state in which you don't get stuck or blocked anymore, where the brilliant, inspired thoughts that come to your mind flow out into the world. So they go from inner to external, inner to outer, quickly, without blocks, without censoring. Unfettered creative self-expression is what I'm talking about. As you invite yourself to write poorly every day, you will learn the habit of and access the ability to trigger flow anytime you want. Anytime you want. And then ultimately, you'll get to a place in your life where you can turn that flow to whatever project you want. Let's talk really quickly about the pipeline. The pipeline. There is a pipeline of limitless inspiration and energy and intelligence, the infinite intelligence of this universe that is flowing to you and through you at all times, or it is trying to flow to you and through you at all times. Only you have the ability to close off access to that pipeline. You can almost think of it as like an internal reservoir. And we can talk, we will talk before the end of this challenge about where that comes from and what that is. It is sacred and divine. Things that pinch you off your access to the pipeline include holding on to grudges and grievances, thought habits and speech habits of complaining and criticizing and judging. Judging others, criticizing others, and judging yourself. Also things like self-repression, where you don't allow yourself to give birth to the creative projects and output that wants to come through you. Repression by others, when others are constantly telling you you're too loud or too whatever, and you listen to that and tone yourself down. Also, just having a chaotic calendar or a chaotic lifestyle. Those things shut off your access to the pipeline. Practices like writing every day and allowing whatever needs to come out, including those grudges, including those grievances, including those complaints, including the self-criticism and all of that, and like allowing that stuff to come through and process out. All of those things open the pipeline up, as does love, as does creating space in your calendar and head space and heart space. All of those things open the pipeline up. So turning off your inner critic and turning off your inner editor, even if just for the 20 or 30 minutes it takes you to do your writing for this challenge, is a practice that opens up your access to the pipeline of limitless love and inspiration that's trying to flow through you. It also primes your mechanism of creating and living in this way that allows you to turn your thoughts into things, that allows you to receive inspiration and turn it into inspired action. Living in that way is a way, it actually primes your mechanism for doing that in every area of your life. So you'll find that when you do this practice before work and then you go to work, everything's kind of easier everything you had to write is easier. Your emails get written easier, your strategic plans get written easier. Everything's a little easier because you're already primed up. And because of that, things just stop feeling like so much of a struggle. And you'll start to find yourself being really eager to start the day in a way that you may not have been experiencing life up to now. You'll start to get in the habit, like I'm very committed to what I call free and clear communications. If something is on my heart and mind and spirit, I'll write about it first. And, if I continue to write about it, if it continues to come up for me, I'll bring it in an intentional and thoughtful way to the person that I'm having the issue with, because I am committed to living in a way that is free and clear inside. So that's some of my, basic thoughts on what happens when you start to write, give yourself permission to write poorly every day. Now I want to return to follow through advice. Know that there is no such thing as behind here. Here we trust in divine order and timing. So whatever experiencing you're having on any given day of the challenge is the right experience. I also, as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to take the opportunity in this challenge to practice some spiritual best practices, including one called radical acceptance. So if you feel self critique, okay, that was an interesting interlude of dog barking. I feel that means that a package has arrived, but we're just going to keep going. Um, If you feel self critique or self judgment arise, this is a perfect opportunity to practice radical acceptance. And there are a few steps to it. The first thing is if you start, you didn't write today and you feel bad about it, take a sacred pause, just take a moment, stop that habitual reaction, recognize what's happening, maybe call it a thing, go note it, we would say note it and name it. I'm having a thought or I'm having a feeling, and that feeling is, anxiety about the challenge. Guilt. I'm having the feeling of guilt that I didn't do the writing I was supposed to do. Just recognize it. You don't have to move in and live with it. Just recognize what's happening and allow the feeling to, don't do that thing where you struggle or fight against it, because Tara said not to judge yourself and now you're judging yourself. So you aren't going to fight against judging yourself. That just constricts things even more, and it actually starts to bind you to it. It makes whatever you focus on grows. So struggling with the feeling is focusing on the feeling, right? Allow it to come in. And I often joke that this is kind of like what I do with my little dog. When she howls, one of them, when she howls, I pick her up with me and I just let her sit with me. And sometimes just in feeling heard and held, she'll stop howling. Then investigate that with kindness. And the writing is the perfect place to investigate it. One thing I'll say is that a lot of times someone will see a prompt, the prompt will stir something up for them. And then they'll go, oh, I need to wait to write about it. Actually, no, the writing is the way through it. The writing is how you process it out. The writing is how you take the feelings that are unwanted and investigate them with kindness instead of with resistance, right? So I think that sometimes having a prompt come up that triggers an unwanted feeling and not writing about it is a little bit like having the worst tasting medicine ever, putting it in your mouth and just holding it there. You're not giving yourself the chance to have the medicinal benefit of it. So investigate it with kindness by putting the drama on the page, not necessarily putting all of the drama on the Facebook group. So if you have the experience of guilt or something come up in the process of writing, the writing challenge, don't just come to the Facebook group and write, I'm really shitty. I'm a terrible person because I didn't do my writing today. Instead, write that in your journal or in your pages for the day and see where that goes. Investigate that feeling with kindness. Do I often turn self-improvement efforts into judgment and shame? And is this a common shame spiral feeling? That's interesting. Wonder what's that about? You know what I mean? Like, investigate that in your writing, and you can be conversational if you want to. That will help you put some distance between you and the feeling instead of grappling with it, which binds you to it more tightly. So that's by writing about it and observing it, you can sort of begin to not identify with it as much as you might have in the past. And then once you've written the drama on the page, you can leave the drama on the page. So in this way, you can often use your writing to create some clear space in your head and in your heart and get a little distance on some of those sort of spirals of emotion and shame and self-criticism and judgment, self-judgment that you may have been living with for a long time. Leave it on the page. And if you do all of that and you have an aha moment of that, you should come to the Facebook group and tell us all about that aha moment because somebody else needs to have that inspiration and to know that it's possible. So that's it for me for today. That's your logistics and instructions and some follow through advice. I'll be back tomorrow with a really fun just set of inspiration for also for your follow through and just a little bit of a blessing for your challenge. Enjoy.